Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TSI Talks, the Strategy Informer Talks to developers. And with me today is Alain. And Alain has released his first game, Battlejuice Alchemist, on Steam in Early Access. And he is going to talk with me about it a little bit. Alain, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hi, so glad to be here, and thank you so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to talk to you.
This is actually not the first time we two have talked. I have an interview with Alain when his game Battlejuice Alchemist was still like in its baby phase.
Mm-hmm.
I've played the alpha way back when, and then we did like a interview on my podcast OrcoCast together, and now we are basically on the bigger channel on the TSI and going back to your game. So what I'm gonna start with a really broad let's do it differently. Let's just introduce Battlejuice Alchemist to the TSI audience.
Yeah.
And then I have a really broad question for you.
Okay, cool. So should I just make an introduction, like what the game is about and what genre it is?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Battlejuice Alchemist is, broadly speaking, a role-playing game. It's top-down, you play an alchemist, and you interact with the world with flasks. This means you don't have a sword, you don't have a shield or anything, you always use flasks for all interactions with the world. That makes you kind of a little bit like a mage, because, I mean, like throwing a fireball and throwing an explosive flask are kind of similar things. So I would say it's like an RPG where you play like a caster. And we have one important mechanic that sets the game apart a little bit. And that's the alchemist draws flasks from his bag and doesn't see what he draws. So we have some random elements there. So you get one of the 10 flasks into your hand that you put into your bag, and that makes it kind of a deck building, because you build your deck of flasks and draw randomly from them. And beside that, it's visually, it's looking a bit like, people always say it looks like Don't Starve, although it's 3D. It has vibrant colors, but it's still dark and gritty, and that's also correct for the story. It's a bit like, I always say, a bit inspired by Tim Burton and a little bit by horror movies, although it's not a horror game. Okay, I think that's it.
I find it funny that you really got still the comparison with Don't Starve when I said you're both inspired by Tim Burton. I still remember that one. That was a talking point on the last podcast. So
yeah.
So we recorded, according to YouTube, for over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
What happened since then?
Kind of a lot. I mean, I think when we were talking, we didn't have our publishing deal done yet, and everything was more in a more floating state. But now, it must have been right after the podcast where everything then got together. An important thing, of course, is always funding. I mean, making indie games is, especially now, because the industry is quite it's tough at the moment, and so funding is always an issue. And what everything kind of came together. We received funding from the German government, like from the federal funding from the German state, and also have a publishing deal. And then I was able to expand the team a little bit. We're still super small. I always say we're 2 people, but we are actually kind of 3, because I'm the only one doing it full time. And then we have the equivalent of 2 part-time people working on the game. And that was only possible because of the funding we're having now. And that's how the game got started, or got like into a very stable position financially, which means, hey, we were able to stick to our production schedule for over a year now, release into early access, and continue working on it. We're also funded for the game for 1 more year, so it's not like we will disappear or something, that the early access won't get done. We will definitely be able to launch into 1.0, because it's all funded. and inside the game. Yeah, I think a lot has changed since then. I think I won't go into the details that much. It's I would say if you played compared to the last time you played, it's a more streamlined experience. It's still a quirky game. I always say you have to take the time to learn the mechanics, and if you do so, we usually get very good feedback. Like our reviews are very good, I mean, I would wish that more people knew about the game and played the game. But when I get the people to play the game, then they actually tend to, I think, enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, so from what I've played, like I said, I've played like the first like alpha or whatever it was. It was like the
I think it was the alpha, the playtest version. It was the alpha, yeah.
Yeah, the first iteration basically of the game, and now going into early access. I would agree that a lot changed in the game as well. And I would also agree that more people should know about the game. Currently, it's 23 reviews, but it's positive, so people actually play the game. They seem to like it, so
yeah,
you should definitely go and try it out. There's a demo also on the Steam page, and you can try it for free and maybe then get it for yourself.
It's actually there's a ton of content in the demo. We made this demo actually quite big. You can play it for a long time. I would say there's at least 2 hours of content, and if you like to grind, like if you're fine with not continuing the story, but grinding, going into the wilderness and playing procedural content as well, you can play it indefinitely. Actually, if you there's no limit with that. And what I also didn't mention, which is really cool, the game will also come to PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, and will be localized in 10 languages. And we hope that will also help sales, because we already have. It's quite interesting because you also said we have 23 reviews. But we, I mean, that's not a ton, but hey, I'm happy about every review. But we also have, I think it's 45 already from languages that are not English, and that's because on Steam you only get shown the reviews that are in your language. So I only get, I think I only get shown. I also see when I go to Battlejuice Alchemist, I see 23 because that's the English reviews, and but if you were in China, you would see like 10 or something, but altogether it's like 40 or 45 or something. And even though the localization is not even in, and we saw that there's a big interest in the Chinese market, this is why we are focusing on the Chinese localization. We also will have traditional Chinese and simplified Chinese.
I mean, makes sense, obviously. If you have like you said, like a fourth of the reviews you have overall comes from the Chinese market, then just go for it.
Exactly.
I think,
especially because it's not even in Chinese yet, and that's why we think, hey, we should focus on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of there's still a lot of ressentiment against early access games, or I should probably phrase it differently. Not there is still a lot. I would say it has grown in the last years through abandoned projects and whatnot. Like I was actually talking about one earlier on the TSI channel in a review. Jump Light Odyssey has been abandoned, unfortunately, which had a lot of potential. And I think you might have actually good chances of pushing the game once it's out in 1.0. At least I would so assume. It's probably more of a slow grower. Because I mean, let's be honest here, Battlejuice Alchemist is a really niche game. That doesn't mean it's bad.
Definitely.
It's not, you know, I'm just saying that, but these kind of niche games often have a hard time finding really an audience, because when you start explaining to someone, yeah, it's a top-down, it's like a top-down action RPG, like Diablo, essentially, a little bit, you know, but you don't have like this classical thing where you don't really have a sword or a shield or sling some spells, but you only have these flasks. And then you, like you said, it's more of a deck builder component with these flasks. Like, you don't select a class or anything. It's more within how you set up the character and how he fights with the flasks. That is like, it is I'm gonna be honest, it's something I haven't seen done in that way before, and that's what makes it interesting to me, at least.
Yes.
And I believe there's like a lot of people out there that if they would understand the principle how this works, they would probably think the same and say, hey, that sounds very cool. Let's wishlist it. Let's maybe try the demo and whatnot. But I feel like it is a hard concept to explain. And the other thing is what you also said is like, the game is kind of a bit of a slow burner. You have to play it longer to get a grasp of what's actually going on. So you have a bit of a double barrier there to get people into the game.
100%. That's 100% true. Yeah.
Is there any plan in place or anything where you say, okay, I have an internal roadmap how I get beyond these barriers and try to communicate what Battlejuice Alchemist really is to the audience? Do you have like a plan for that setup, or is that something you're still struggling with? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would also I just remembered one thing. It's also because I was like very because you also say, hey, people seem to like it. It's like that's also a Steam thing. I realized is like when you're below 100 reviews, you can't get very positive or even overwhelmingly positive. You only can get that when you have 500 reviews. So it's not only tied to the number, to the percentage of positive reviews, but to the total number. Because it would mean if people have like 2 reviews and 2 are positive, this would be overwhelmingly positive because it's 100%, right? So what we have like I think we have 98% positive because we have of the 40 reviews only 2 are negative. And okay, that's not exactly, I think it's like 95 or something. So about what and the negative ones are like my Steam key got revoked or something because it was an influencer and the key did actually not work, was a mistake on our side. It doesn't matter. So what I just wanted to say is like when people play, everybody seems to like it. So people who take the time and decide that's I think this could be my type of game, it usually is that type of game. So that's super cool. And now back to what you were asking, like, okay, but how do we get more people to play it? What's the plan there? It's like, it has been like this from the beginning on. The game is what it is. I can't bend it with marketing to something that it is not. This means I can try to find the target audience, and basically that's also a bit like the publisher's job, right? Because we're making our money from the publishing deal. The publisher makes their money back by selling the game, and they say, hey, we'll see. We focus on expanding the market by gearing into, for example, like, hey, the Chinese market may be important to us. Maybe it's interesting for the consoles. That's why it's coming to all consoles and stuff. But I can't bend the game to what it is not. And that's and I kind of started embracing it and loving the game for what it is. As you say, it's quite unique. And what I realized is like in the gaming space, it's being unique, or maybe it's in everything you want to sell. Being unique is kind of cool, and people think that's the important thing about a game, because usually people say when you ask them, also I did that when you asked me, what's your game? And then you tell them the unique thing, and you think, hey, to make money with games, it has to be unique. And thinking about that, it is in a way it's a little bit true, but you have to do 80% or maybe even 90% something that people already know, and you can be 10% unique. That's totally fine. They have to look at the game and they have to love it. It has to make them nostalgic. It must be something they love and know. And then you give them a sprinkle of new. And this is a game people like to buy. And Battlejuice Alchemist is like, I would say it's like 60% what you already know and 40% unique. And that's way too much unique. we also see, or I can track how many people visit our Steam store. If I make a Reddit ad or something, or post something somewhere, our click-through rate is very good. It's always very good. People like it. They write comments, they say, I like it. Then they click the store and they don't buy it because it's too unique. They say, oh, that's cool, that looks like Don't Starve, but it's not a survival game. Oh, I wish the developer all the best, and they don't buy it. Or they are like, oh, cool, that looks like Diablo. But I think it's like, okay, there's some deck building in there. That's not my cup of tea. And then they say, that looks really cool, I wish you all the best, and they don't buy it. So, but that's something I can't change. And if I changed it now, it would be like, bending it to a point that would frustrate the people that already like it. The small group, I would alienate my small player base that I have. They would be alienated. And I think it's just not a good idea to bend the game at this point, or to amp. We have a little bit of base building. I could amp that, or the publisher could amp that in the marketing strategy and say, this is a base building game to cater more into the Don't Starve audience, because there's also base building in Don't Starve. But that would be kind of lying a little bit. And so I think we are like stuck with what we have, but I'm actually quite happy with what we have. Just the audience will never be huge and big, and we won't make a lot of money from sales.
You never know. Maybe you're lucky, and I don't know what's a good YouTuber. Seth Scentage picks it up and says it's good, and he can drive sales a lot, but that's like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to be pessimistic. And the good thing is, I'm not counting on it, and I'm not dependent on it. Our salaries and my guys' salaries are not dependent that we turn it around and make it a top-selling game, and that's really great, and that's why I embrace this game a lot. I'm so happy that I got the chance to make it, actually, because usually if you don't have the publisher can afford to do that, because part is also paid by the federal funding, and they are also interested in getting unique games, but that can hurt, as in our case, to make them more unique and a bit experimental. That can hurt sales, but I think we're all having a very good situation. I've been working on this for 6 years, and I'm so happy that I got the chance to do that. That's super cool, and I get the chance to finish it, to work one more year on it, even though sales are not great, and that's something I'm super thankful for, and that's very fortunate, actually.
The important part is, and this is something I tell you because over the years I've got to know a lot of devs, and some of them actually never had the chance to finish their games.
Yeah.
And
I saw so many people, and that's so sad.
Yeah, and you have this opportunity actually. So your journey is quite interesting. You actually started out with a template that you wanted to make, and then you just sat down, and for 6 years now you've been working on that template, making it a reality. And like you said, you have the luxury of having a publisher. You have the luxury of getting actually a federal grant, which has dried up now. They are not that happy to give those out anymore, because I tried actually for one. I didn't get one. But then again, I'm not sure if the state would fund the game I wanna do, but that's something else. And that's like it is actually, you have been in a very good position. So, and I'm happy for you. Don't get me wrong, but it also is very much a very, very good thing for the game, because as you said, and this is like something a lot of people worry about, and something you can dispel here. As you said, you have one more year of funding secured where you can polish the game and make the early access period just work. And then next year, it should be next year, it should be out of early access. And then we'll see where it goes, because then it's 1.0 and then it's prime time essentially. usually you do early access to like get community feedback to see what could we improve about the game. And early access, and this is also what Steam says, and I think it is a good thing that you don't do this either, should be used for funding. And I still feel like a lot of developers use early access as a Hail Mary to like fund their game, and I feel like that is the absolutely wrong way to go about it, because you will not draw enough audience in to keep the game afloat.
Yeah, most likely not. I mean, yeah.
Except your high profile dev like Clay, who made Don't Starve, because they can probably just say, hey, we're Clay, we're launching in early access. We've proved time and again we are gonna finish games in early access. And here's our new game, early access, buy it, and then people will buy it. You know, you have to have a proven track record, and I feel like that is a paramount thing that you should do when you're in early access. So why did you specifically go into early access? Obviously it cannot be that you like it was your last Hail Mary or whatever. You probably want to gather feedback for the game to make it better, right? And is there another reason you went with the early access model?
Yeah, it's also a financial thing. It's when I talk to publishers, some say we don't do early access, and some say we need a release in this period of time, because they can't, for example, a publisher, if they have like 10 games in the making, they can't release them all in 1 year and then no game next year. You know what I mean? So they say we have a specific slot where our people can also work on a launch, and where our people can work on localization and stuff, or we can I just said the German that's funny. It's like I can't even translate it. It's like right. It's like right. So they also have capability and capacities, and for them it was important to have it in the time we released the early access, and I was actually fine with it. When I was pitching the game to publishers, I was saying we can do early access, this would be the time frame. If you want to do it, this would be the time frame. If you don't want to do it, this would be the time frame. And they decided for it, and that's why also I went for it. For me, as a dev, it's also cool to gather some feedback, to see a lot of people playing, and to make it better. I'm torn between, or if you ask me, is early access a good idea? I would always say it depends. It's, I mean, if it's a complex game where you can also balance a lot, then I think it makes sense. I think it's a good choice for Battlejuice Alchemist, but it would not have been the only choice. It could have gone both ways. It could have been we were sitting here and I would be saying you can play the demo and we will release in a year. So this could have also happened. Yeah,
this could have also happened. Yeah. I mean, makes sense. Like we already said, there is I think there's both use cases. I think Battlejuice Alchemist will probably benefit from the early access phase.
I think so too.
It's more of a game that should have an early access. Yeah, so that would be Battlejuice Alchemist, exactly. I'm curious, you've grabbed yourself a publisher. So don't be careful that you don't talk out of the NDA, if you know what I mean, because you probably had to sign a lot of paper and whatnot. So
yeah.
How did that transpire? How did you actually secure the publisher, and what can you tell us a little bit about the publisher?
About the do you mean about the process of finding a publisher or the publisher themselves?
How did you find the publisher?
Yeah.
And about themselves then.
Yeah, so I've been I actively looked for one, but I also was contacted by actually quite a lot of them, and the publisher I'm not now working with, that's ES Digital Games, and they actually approached me. And I also found in the process that usually the ones that approach you, they are already very interested, and these are the ones that can usually that you can make a deal with, because they are out there and they are looking for games, and if they find you, there's already a lot of things like speaking for yourself. Then if you are cold approaching, the people that call you on the phone and are like, hey, you don't know me, but I'm with this marketing agency in London, maybe we can have a talk. That's like they are so cold approaching you, and this is like when you send your game to any publisher and they are like, yeah, sure, we'll have a look, and then most likely this won't happen. It can happen. Of course it can happen. I also got into deeper conversation with people I approached, but the deepest conversation were with the ones that approached me. And also the one that approached me was ES Digital Games, and they what to say about them? They've been around for quite some time. They make smaller games. They tend to make bigger games now. They just signed a quite big Unreal title. They're focused on Unreal titles, which is good because we are also approaching on developing on Unreal Engine, and that makes actually sense because they are involved with let's say, if I send them a localization package, that's like I send them the text files for the English version, and they have a pipeline to work with that. I mean, they know the Unreal specific quirks that can happen, and it actually makes sense to focus on an engine. Kind of. I mean, it's not necessary to many publishers do Unity and Unreal games, but they, for example, if they say, hey, cool, you're developing on Unreal, that makes our job easier. That makes also their porting job easier. And now I kind of lost track of what I was trying to say. Yeah, they've been around. They with their new games they recently are signing. They are focusing on, they're making a lot of role-playing games, and they allow a bit more high profile, it looks. They just signed this super cool, more realistic looking RPG. That's cool. So I feel happy among the games that they are recently signing. But they are not only making role-playing games. Also, like, they have a couple of they also have a Metroidvania, for example, in the making that looks pretty looks a lot like Battlejuice Alchemist, also stylized and stuff. And so I can always see why they wanted to make Battlejuice Alchemist, because that it fits their portfolio. And yeah, I think that's it's kind of. You can ask me more questions about it.
I'm curious because you said there's like a language barrier with the publisher when we talked earlier.
Oh yeah.
Where are they based?
I mean, it's sometimes there's it also depends with whom I'm talking. I mean, this can be difficult. I mean, for me, there's also a language barrier. So because I'm German, my English is quite all right. I mean, you can hear the accents and stuff, but still for me, paperwork, like real contracts, if you have a 50-page contract and my native language is German, and then that's, it can be, the language barrier is a thing. And so they are based in Cyprus, but they are an international team. Many of them are living, I think, some in Poland, some in Estonia. It's quite a mixed bag. And but there are, of course, usually the people who are working like with on marketing stuff and community management and stuff, they are also often like Native Americans, native English speaking Native Americans. No, their native language is English, and but many people in like devs are actually not, and or programmers. They also have. I mean, there are also people like on the publishing side who do programming tasks, and they are not necessarily native speakers. And then sometimes you have to like meet yourself on the middle ground. That's the English language, and that can be a challenge sometimes. Yeah, sure.
I'm kinda not surprised that you said the publisher is based out of Cyprus.
Yeah.
I need to be more specific why I say this. Like, your game fits an Eastern European publisher, or what I would imagine an Eastern European publisher would pick up. So it fits like a glove. So I think you probably did they probably did a really good job of picking you. So yeah, it's actually nice to see that you got that chance and that you got picked up by a publisher. So what I want to talk about a little bit more here, because it's just very relevant at the moment. And you already mentioned it, that the situation at the moment is kind of scary. So how is that in any way affecting your work? What's currently going on in the video games industry? I mean, you said funding is secured, no problem, whatever, but still, is this like something that looms over you and you try to not think about it too hard? Or how are you seeing the current situation with the layoffs, the firing and everything?
Yes, it's definitely looming over a game dev's head, and that's my head. And it would be a terrible choice to close your eyes and just hope for the best. So it definitely affects the way I work. But I've always been that way. I'm making very conservative decisions, like very financially conservative decisions. And now I have the responsibility not only to feed my own mouth and my family's mouth, but also to feed the people who are working for me, right? So I can't afford to the luxury to finish Battlejuice Alchemist and then hope for the best. Because as I said, I will not make the company like dependent on sales. And so how do I do that? When Battlejuice Alchemist launches, I need another game in the making, and so that's why we're actually working on a second title already. As I said, I have two guys. They are working part-time and I'm working full-time on Battlejuice Alchemist. But the other two guys are with their other half-time work power, I say, like they do 20 hours Battlejuice Alchemist a week, and 20 hours they are already working on a second title, and they already secured funding for this title, and it's in the prototyping phase right now. And when Battlejuice Alchemist launches, we will hopefully seamlessly continue making the next game. And this is something that I think I would have loved to just finish Battlejuice Alchemist and then make the next game. Have some time, like brainstorming and stuff. But then it would have taken like another year until I had the next prototype and till I could get into pitching. And pitching usually takes half a year. So I needed to start like half a year ago from now. So when Battlejuice Alchemist launches, the other game will already be like in production for 1.5 years. And that's super exhausting, like to have 3 people working on 2 games. And but it's necessary, because otherwise I would be gambling. I would go to the casino and set everything on one number and hope that Battlejuice Alchemist somehow sells enough. And and that's affecting me in a way that it's like we have to do a lot of work and be very conservative and go routes that we would prefer actually not to go. It would be a lot more chill to just finish Battlejuice Alchemist. But I've seen many devs that release the. I mean, I don't know if you know the number, but 9 out of 10 studios only release 1 game. This has been the way like for many years. That's not only because the industry is like there's like funding has dried up and there's a lot of like layoffs going on and stuff. So I didn't want to fall into the trap to like launch the game into 1.0, have my fingers crossed and hope that somehow magically the bills get paid. And, it affects me definitely. And but things are looking quite good right now. We for the second game we already got funding, and but that's not for the full game, always for the phase we're in. So we're actually finishing the concept phase right now. This month is our last month in concept phase, and next month starts the prototyping phase. And this is also funded by federal funding, but not federal funding. That's actually funded by state funding, and that's like a bit more local than the German. As you said, the German federal funding, it dried up for now, and but there's also state funding in some states, and I got some of that, and I want to make the prototype also partly from another state funding source. And Yeah, that's kind of it. It's not an easy situation. You always have to, or at least that's my experience with the gaming industry. It's like you have to pull up like every string you can get. You have to do everything, because actually for Battlejuice Alchemist, it's not like actually. I mean, we got an Epic Mega Grant, we got state funding, we got federal funding, and we got a publishing deal. So we got like 4 sources of, and also had to invest a little bit of money ourselves, and of course time before that. But so that's like 4 or 5 sources of funding, and it's not like we're swimming in money, right? It's like we can pay the bills. Everybody gets their salary, and that's it. We don't have a bank or anything, despite having these 5 sources. So you have to pull every string, and I will continue doing that to somehow make it through this financially tough situation that indie development has become. Yeah.
I mean, it is also a question. Everyone gets their salary, you say, but what about you? Can you and your family still live comfortably in this position that you're in?
Yeah, definitely. I can. It's not my salary. I also don't. It's not like the company is Chemical Works. That's my company. I own it 100%. But I also get a salary. Like I don't pay myself like whatever is left or something. It's like I have a fixed salary, and everybody else has a fixed salary. And our salary is a little bit above industry, industry standard in Germany. Actually, it's a lot more expensive to make a game in Germany than, for example.
No, you can say above industry average, for example.
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's above it, but not crazy above it. So I don't want to like squeeze my people and make them pay for less than that's the average. But we're a little bit above it, so it's totally. I would say it's a very good situation. It's very fair, and and as I said, so it's but this eventually that's all secured until the end of Battlejuice Alchemist. And so that's why I'm so eager to make this happen and have everything in place so we can continue exactly the same way with the next game and continue paying salaries as we do. And that's the situation. Yeah.
Do you wanna tell us a little bit about the game you're working on? What's that gonna be? Is that 80% mainstream and 20% new things?
I would say it's I can tell you about it. It's if I tell it to you now, you maybe say, how is that so much different from Battlejuice Alchemist? But I think it's kind of different. And yes, that's one of the premises. I want people, that's the first thing we did for the new game. The working title, we call it Crossroads, but that's just the working title. So Crossroads is a roguelike deck builder with quite strategic elements. So it's a bit like you play Heroes of Might and Magic, but you fight your combats with cards, and that's kind of it. I don't know if you played Heroes of Might and Magic. I'm quite sure you did.
I did religiously 3 and 4.
Nice.
3 and 4. Like I still remember the sessions. Like I would have friends over. I would like just stay overnight, and we would like have hot seat sessions for like.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing game, right? And so it's if you okay, what I wanted to say, and that makes it very makes our process a bit more clear, is like the first thing our artist did, or I asked him to do, is can you make me a or I said, I think it was 8 seconds, can you make me an 8-second trailer made out of 3 images that communicates what Crossroads will be? And if you can't do that, or if we can't find a game or a concept that is not able to communicate in 8 seconds and 3 images what the game is, then we will have to tweak the concept. And as we just talked about Battlejuice Alchemist, for Battlejuice Alchemist, that's impossible. You can't give me 10 screenshots of Battlejuice Alchemist and people are still like, so is this like World of Warcraft? So is this like Don't Starve? It's like Diablo, right? So it's so difficult. And that's why it's so difficult to sell. And that for the next game, we're not like super sellouts. We want to make games that only sell well, because we love making games. We love Heroes of Might and Magic, and we love deck building games. And we were like, can we bring this together, but as a viable commercial product that we can show people and they understand what it is. It's not a crazy concept, but that's what we tried and wanted to do. And so there our approach was a bit different. And Patrick, my artist, he did it, and it's like, yeah, like you see this goblin, and he's like on this Heroes of Might and Magic looking hex grid, and he moves forwards, and you see a hand of cards, and you play the cards, and you see, okay, that's a deck building game. It's fantasy. It's on a hex grid, so it's strategic, like a bit like Heroes of Might and Magic, and you have playing cards. And we can communicate that we could communicate it in one screenshot. You can't communicate the action in one screenshot because action is like time based, and you have to show like more than one image. But it communicates what it is. And for example, and that's also like I approach this game a bit different. I approach it like thinking which kind of people would like it, and that's also with marketing in the background. For example, let's say sometimes genres are tied to mechanics. Some people they only play sci-fi games, and that goes with maybe a certain type of mechanic. I don't have a great example. I think I have a quite okay-ish example. Let's say I love the Anno games, right? The city building games, and they are usually looking like in the Middle Ages, or like it's like people know what to expect from an Anno game. Sometimes it's playing in the 1900s, sometimes it's playing in the 1600s, but still a house looks like a European house, and it's people look at it and they understand it. And when they made the leap to make one of the games played in the future, that's a big risk, because people look at it and they say, I love Anno, but I'm not into sci-fi, and then they don't buy it. And that's a huge risk for a company. So things have to come together in some point, and we try not to always go the way to make this difficult. You know what I mean? Like for Battlejuice Alchemist, it was so difficult, and now I want to make it a bit easier.
I'm gonna be honest here for a second. I think it's Anno 2070.
Exactly. Yes.
It was. Let me look which one it was really quick. But one of those. It's Anno 2205. That one. I've played that one so much. Mm-hmm. I've got like 44 hours played on Steam, and I usually don't play games for that long. Mm-hmm. I really like that. I really like that one. It was, I will agree. Usually, the gamers, if they hear Anno, because it's just so entrenched, in what they did. They started out with Anno 1402, I think, and then like they slowly worked their way up in terms of like gear hundreds, and I own all the classics on GOG.com.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
I should probably play some of those again. They were so fun.
Yeah.
But I will agree. So there's always like, if you have a serious title, and especially if you have like a long running series, there are set expectations with that series. Yeah. There is something the player base wants you to have, even for example, if we just have Final Fantasy, often the characters, the settings, everything changes, but like there's some core components that stay the same. For example, it's always an RPG. It is always this not anymore. They have like this kind of like hybrid system now in the more modern titles, where it's still kind of turn-based, but also kind of not, but it's always expected to be a JRPG, broadly speaking, and like, but not just a JRPG, like this Square Enix type of game. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a good way of maybe approaching also game development. Did you look in the market or at the market and say, there is a gap here in the market, there is something missing, but there's like maybe a big fan base out there clamoring for something like that. For example,
somehow in between. Because if there is a big gap, I mean, is it a gap to be filled, or is the gap there for a reason? That's what you always have to ask yourself. And we can fall into the trap, so, like saying, this game, no game exists like this. We should make it. No, probably you shouldn't make it, because if there was a market for it, somebody would have already made it.
My point was more that there is undeniably a market there, but it's not served. And for example, you have like there has been a very I'm a huge strategy game fan. Yeah, I just play almost everything under the sun. And there has been a phenomenally large dry spell for strategy game fans. You didn't get really a good diet of different like types of strategy games. And I don't know what happened. Like in the last half year, it completely changed, especially when it comes to RTS, like real-time strategy games like Command and Conquer are on the rise. There's so many of them in the works and they're getting out. I played 9-bit armies. That was absolutely great. Then you had a more like squad or company of heroes like approach with the recent Terminator strategy game. You had like there's so much and there's still coming more. They are even there's a Microprose revival going on. So basically the brand is coming back, the brand publisher. Yeah, I mean it's just the brand revival, so we have to be careful. But they are making a RTS game. What is it called? I think it's called Dying Breed. Yeah, it's called Dying Breed. And it is 1-to-1. Like it is basically a remake of Command and Conquer. They even have the fucking shitty FMV scenes. Nice. I'm so fascinated by that. I'm gonna link you that so you can take a look. But this is fucking amazing, and I'm all here for it. And this is what I mean by there is a market here. Yeah, you know, this is what I mean. Is here a market? Not like something completely outlandish that's never been made, you know?
Yeah. And that's the smart way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, and this is what I meant. Like if you look at the market, someone somewhere looked at the market and said, look, what this market lacks. Yeah, I mean, I could be completely proven wrong, yeah? But what this market lacks is Command and Conquer follow up with shitty FMV sequences.
Yeah.
And I'm all here for it. I'm completely down for that. And
you know what? That's the interesting part about the strategic RTS genre. I think many people for many years got it wrong. The thing is, people looked at StarCraft 2 and said like, if Blizzard wasn't able to make the next big RTS hit. I mean, StarCraft 2 was a success, but not as crazy as StarCraft 1. And
don't get me started on StarCraft 2. Don't get me started.
And the thing they got wrong is they focused on multiplayer. And everything you mentioned, I mean, do you need FMVs in multiplayer? No, you don't. Because most of the people don't even touch multiplayer. You don't have to make a concept for the super balanced refraction multiplayer RTS experience, because people love playing RTSs on their own also. If you make an RTS, you have to make it like as a super cool campaign, and from that you start. And that's, I think, what they did, because I didn't even look at Dying Breed that you just sent me. But as you said, they have the FMVs, so they will be focused on single player, and that's a good way to get sales. And some people will dip into multiplayer. Maybe it will be a community hit. Maybe it will even be the next big RTS multiplayer hit, like esports and stuff. Maybe it will be. But you make a very solid single player campaign, and that's I'd say is a very good way to go. And that's why I think this could be could be working.
Yeah, it is basically, I mean, there is a room, or there's room for everything, you know?
Yes.
There's room for multiplayer games. I think StarCraft 2 did a lot of things wrong. First, the release model was absolutely abhorrent. As you said, they basically just I mean, Blizzard has been dying for years now. I always said the decline started with Diablo 3 and nobody wanted to believe me. But Diablo 3 bounced back, Orko. And I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself. It did not. But that's another story. In the end, Blizzard releasing this as a multiplayer first title, annihilating like basically half of their fan base. Of course, a lot of people played StarCraft 1 multiplayer, but everyone also played the campaigns.
Yes.
Because everyone thought, oh my god, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then they released it like really strangely. Like they released the core game and then these very expensive expansion packs. Basically, I mean, it is a absolutely abhorrent release. It should have never happened that way, and was also already a sign of decline for Blizzard. But nobody wanted to believe me. And hindsight is always 2020, of course, but now we see the state Blizzard is in now. Blizzard has never been in a worse state, and I would say they went from an industry darling to not one of the most hated developers, but certainly not one of the most loved ones at this point. And I think, and this is probably why I love indie devs so much. I have a lot of friends who say or I have a few friends who say I don't think indie devs are all that great because they are already treading water. They are already treading ground that's been there before. They are just aping. They are not doing anything with their indie status and whatnot. But then if somebody like you does something really interesting, they also don't support. Like they're just talking out of their ass, basically. So what I love about indie devs personally, and where I disagree with these people who say this, is indie devs have the freedom to recreate stuff from the old days, and they can get away with it. Because it is most likely even cheaper to get a bunch of buddies together, film some FMV sequences, and then basically faithfully recreate the Command and Conquer look. Dying Breed even looks like Command and Conquer graphically. It's
I'm just seeing the capsule art because you sent me the link, right? And there we are in something that I also wanted to mention is that in this when you are making you said like you compared it with Final Fantasy and you have a franchise there. And if you make an indie game in the general space of a big game, you're also signing the genre contract. What I mean with that is people have certain expectations of that. And so if you make like something that looks exactly like let me say it this way. You have maybe my example with the Anno series. It wasn't perfect because it was a franchise, and they have to cater to their own audience, right? But let's say you make a cozy farming game, like no pressure. It's like it's top. You're making your farm like Stardew Valley and all these. You better make the colors desaturated and not make it look like a gritty Warhammer 40k game, because that's part of the contract. Because people will look at your game and will understand what it is. And this is like, even if you're indie, if you're not like have a big franchise of cozy farming sims, still you're kind of in the loop. You know what I mean? Like you people expect the same thing from you. And I think that's what, for example, also when I look at this, what you just sent me, Dying Breed, it's like I only see the capsule. I see it's a pixel art, RTS, super cool on the left side, but there's a guy, I see, oh nice, there's FMV. And in the corner, what I see there is a sandworm. And that's super smart, because they don't have the Dune license, they don't have the Command & Conquer license, but I look at it and I see the sandworm, and this makes me think of Dune 2, which I played on my DOS PC. It's like super smart. It's like people know what to expect from this single capsule art or screenshot because of putting the sandworm in there, and that's super smart.
Yeah, no, not just that, but I feel like it captures the look of Command and Conquer, like the graphical style, so incredible well in this capsule art.
It looks amazing. Yeah.
You know exactly what you get. And they don't even make like they don't even hide their inspiration. They wear it on their sleeves, and I love that.
Yeah.
And by the way, just since you said it, I personally totally play a farming game, a cozy farming game in the Warhammer 40k universe.
Yeah.
Or in the fantasy universe, I'd be a Skaven or Orc farmer. It would be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But I know this is not for everyone, that idea. But if anyone is
audience,
great.
It's great to be able to cater an audience, you know. Like it's so cool to if somebody could make your orc farming game. It's like that's super cool, and that's why I'm so, to get back to Battlejuice Alchemist, that's why I'm so happy to get to make it, because it is, as you said, it's so super niche, and yet I'm able to finish and make it, and that's I don't have to bend it now, and that's a very cool situation actually, and I have to just be happy with the few people who play it and buy it, and that's actually super cool.
Yeah, that's actually, like you said, that's the cool thing about it, that you can just do that what you want. You don't have to bend the knee for anything. And I think that's actually pretty impressive, that you managed to pull that off, because a lot of devs don't get to do that ever, like in their entire career. If you ask around, maybe Hideo Kojima could do that on a big budget, if we talk like really big AAA big budget. Or that's basically it. So I'm happy for you, and make sure that everyone knows about this, because this is something you can be really proud of, if you ask me. So but let's talk about another thing that is currently happening, and actually transpired yesterday. And this is probably something you haven't really experienced all that much. But how is like your contact to your small little community that you have? Where do you actually build up your community as a dev, your fan base, your community? Do you use the Steam forums? Do you use Twitter? Do you use Discord? Where are you?
I'm trying, and that's maybe that's also not the best choice. I'm trying to be everywhere. I check like the Steam forums every few days if somebody posted something there. We have a Discord, and I'm posting like the roadmaps and stuff. I'm posting them also on social media, on Twitter, and I'm actually kind of everywhere a little bit. maybe that's not the most focused approach, but I just try to make. I was always thinking like it's niche, and I can't afford to not post on Twitter, or I can't afford to not have an Instagram account, because I need to reach everybody who could be just a little bit interested, has to see it. I don't know. So but to answer your question, I'm most doing the most, posting the most on Twitter, and the community is on the Discord, and that would be the main channels, I would say.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Did you see what transpired with Helldivers 2? I
just wanted to ask you, because I have no idea what you're talking about. What happened with Helldivers?
So, it is like on one hand, I feel like the reaction could be a little bit more overblown, but there is like a reason for it why I did join the boycott, and I'll get to that. So what happened? Helldivers 2 put out a community announcement via Steam that it will be, from the end of May onwards, mandatory to link your Steam account to a PlayStation Network account.
Oh.
And they stated that from the start in quite a bit of a weird way. Yeah. The issue is there was a grace period where you didn't have to do that. That grace period comes now to an end and was never really clearly communicated, in my opinion. And they enforce this now. So you have two problems here. One, it was never clearly communicated from the start. There was just a note on the Steam page that it requires linking to a PlayStation account. But once you booted the game up, it never came up. This should have been communicated more clearly, that there will be eventually an end to not linking your Steam account to a PlayStation account, so that you have to link it. And the other thing is, PlayStation Network accounts are not available in every country the game has been sold in.
Oh.
So basically, they are locking out. They are locking out people who have paid for the freaking game.
That's terrible. Oh no.
Yeah. So the game should have never been sold in these countries. And then we get into this, like, I personally loathe it. I hate it, yeah? I always say, if you are not on Steam, itch, or GOG.com, you don't get my money. I give you 3 chances to get my money. If you can't manage to use these 3 chances, you don't deserve it. And if I have to link to any other account, counts being not on the platform.
Yeah.
That is me, however.
Yeah.
I know people are different, and that's okay, but I will not support in any way, shape, or form linking my Steam account to another account. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I've been through that. We had like EA Origin, we had like the fucking 2K launcher. Like, every fucking asshole in the book has a fucking launcher. I'm done with it.
It's terrible.
And
I hated it too. Oh man, and everybody hates it.
yeah, and like, this is something. What Helldivers 2 happened is like textbook what not to do. This game had oh my god, this game had over 300,000 reviews.
Yeah.
And was at what, 90% positive? Like, this had insanely good community sentiment. If I look now at the Steam page,
Yeah.
recent reviews, 38% mostly negative.
Yeah, that's tough.
And the game fell down in all reviews overall to mixed 69. Nice.
Whoa. Yeah.
They really burned it completely up. They should have never made this post. This was so bad.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's I don't understand how people can not see this, and there must have been people in the company saying people will hate it, and they must have been ignored. I mean,
Here is
possible that they are working like 5 people and nobody brought it up, or 10 people and nobody brought it up, or 100 people and nobody brought it up. It's impossible.
It's gonna be ignored because I tell you why. These companies are not reasonably driven. These companies are numbers and money driven. It has been brought up. It gets constant. I'm 100% sure, and I'm not blaming the developer of Helldivers 2 here, Arrowhead. I'm 100% sure Arrowhead would have told Sony that this is a very bad idea in enforcing this now.
Yeah.
And Sony didn't listen, and I can tell you why. Because even if, so you have to understand, 80% of the player base for Helldivers 2 are on PC.
Yeah.
This game is so massively successful on PC. It is unprecedented. And not like, it is Sony's 7th best selling game of all time. It would, if it was just released on the PlayStation, it wouldn't even crack the top 20.
Yeah.
This is how massive this is on PC. You have to understand this before you go into this discussion. And Sony wants that all these people who play Helldivers on PC sign up for PSN because it makes number go up. And even if not everyone does it, everyone who does is a net gain for them, because these people don't play on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And this is a net gain for them, because then they can show their investors, look, this is how many active people we have on PSN right now.
Yeah.
And that is what they want. They don't just want your money for a video game. That's not enough anymore these days. They want numbers. They want your data. They want everything. Because in this is like in I cannot imagine that Helldivers was that expensive to fund.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, but they still want everything they can get out of you.
That's the nasty part of it. The nasty part is you can't budget a game except Elden Ring 2 or Elden Ring something to make 300,000 Steam reviews. Like, there's only a handful games that made that, right? That's like Steam success through the roof. This means nobody ever planned with this super breakout success. I'm sure it made like 10 or maybe even 100 times more than they expect. Not 100 times more, but at least 10 times more. So if you're in this situation, do you really have to squeeze out the people's data? Do you really need to do that now? I mean, I see that they want to, and I can understand. For example, we just bashed account like these. Oh, everybody has a launcher and stuff. But I mean, for example, Baldur's Gate 3. This has been a more expansive project than it has been than the old Larian games, right? I can understand that if they need, I don't know, if they talk to a publisher, okay, they are self-published, I don't know, but if, you know what I mean? Like, in the beginning, if you make like a big franchise, if Blizzard makes a game or something, like, they have from the beginning on, it's part of their monetization model that, look, we will have a launcher. We will take your email address and your data, because we have to make so much money, because hundreds and thousands of people are working on this. We need so much money to make from this. And this is part of the monetization model. I can understand this. But if you do that on a breakout success, and because that didn't cost that much. I mean, of course it cost money, but we can't have budgeted with the success and now say, and by the way, I didn't break even. We have to make something happen. We really have to give Sony the email addresses. Like, that's like just squeezing out.
They just at that point they just want to squeeze. You know, yeah, I will everyone who says, but they stated it on the Steam page that it was a thing. Yes, it was. But I will also say it was never enforced, and they shouldn't have enforced it now. That it was never ever that clearly stated that this is just a grace period and will never come back. Like,
yeah, they can tell. I mean, they have a point if it was there. But as you say, it's also the law. I don't know how to say that in English. And there's I think it's everywhere in law that also, if it's there is the written law and how you enforce it. And if you have lived by rules that are not like written in the law, that you like for 10 years or something, that's like, it becomes also relevant. It's not like, but it says you have to do this. Yeah, but we never enforced it. And that makes it relevant. You cannot brush it away by saying, but it's somewhere in the bylaws. Somewhere it says you have to do this. You just didn't read it. And now you decided to enforce it. It makes you look so bad and so cheap and so greedy. That's really hurting. That can really hurt, and your image. And yeah, I hope this that they get like the backlash is that it's big enough that people don't do that. I mean, it's not cool. It
is quite impressive how they turned the community sentiment within 24 hours.
And I feel bad for them, because everybody was talking so positively about Helldivers. Everybody loved it, and
the game. Don't get me wrong. The game is still fine. It is a fantastic co-op shooter. But like this very, very small decision completely. I mean, I think, and this is a lot of, or some people will probably say this is an overreaction, and in some way I will kind of agree with them, but I feel like, and this is what the gaming industry is at this point. I do feel that this kind of overreaction is just all the pent up frustration that a lot of players feel at the AAA gaming industry in general as of late. There was like, they had this one game that was this one multiplayer game that was just perfect. Yeah, it was just enough live service to not be egregious. It just gave you just enough content to not suck. It was very well made. It just worked from the start. Everything was just completely fine, and then they pull like the wool out over our eyes and just be like, or they pulled the wool over our eyes and then just be like, hey, but you have to link to play in the future. And I think this is like something we've seen a lot of times before happening from companies we didn't expect, because also Arrowhead has been pretty good with the community. They usually stayed out of trouble. They usually really were nice to the community. And then a lot of people feel just betrayed, I feel like. And it's a lot of pent up frustration there. And then you have the case of Tekken 8 that had like a huge reception too at the start, and then they added like a bunch of like bullshit 1 month after the launch to it, and since then community sentiment has also fallen pretty drastically because they added like a month after all the reviews were in and everything. They added like more monetization options in fact. Yeah. And I feel like these sneaky moves are really shitty and they are really bad, and that's why I also being grateful for having the indie market, because I still get my gaming needs served, or even the AA market at some point, because I would say what was a really good AA game I played. Oh yeah, Checked Alliance 3. It's not as good as the second part, never, but it's still a lot of fun, and I enjoyed my time with it at least. So yeah. There's a lot to still good games out there. I think it's not that hard to find them. Yeah. But I also feel like a lot of people who play video games that just want to be spoon-fed the next big hit. Sometimes you just have to look for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that gets us back to your game, Battlejuice Alchemist. A lot more people should look for games like Battlejuice Alchemist and give them a chance.
Give them a try. I mean, like also, we always have our demo because we can't afford to not have them, because we have to be. That's the funny part, because we indie dev at small studios, we have to be on our best behavior always. We can't bullshit at all. We if like, I don't want anybody to buy the game and then return it because it really hurts, because if you only have a handful of reviews and they write a bad one, that's terrible for me. And so every single one counts. And we are trying to do that. And you can try out, that's usually with the small indie games, you can always try out the demo, and it's and then you can also play the indie game, the game on Steam for like 2 hours and still return it and get your money back. That's also something I would like to tell people. Like, this thumb down really hurts us. I mean, when we talked earlier about the reviews, I know every single bad review because I read it. And like, one of the bad reviews is, this game is already worth your money, totally in early access. I had a lot of fun with it. I love it. Thumbs down. It's like, did he misclick? I don't even know. I would like to talk to him. Like, man, this one.
Can't you just ask him? Isn't there an option?
Yeah, I can reply as a developer. Of course, I'm like super polite, and I'm like, I mean, I'm also not angry, because I said, hey, it's super cool that you like the game, that you say it's already worth your time in early access, time and money in early access. Thank you so much. Would have loved to see the thumb up or something. I don't know. And it's so I would always say, don't throw a thumb down. You definitely throw a thumb down if it's not good, or if something like they advertise something that's not right, and you can also change your review. If you write a review and the developer answers and says, for example, for me it was like one guy that was also super cool. He said like, oh man, this game, it doesn't play well, the camera is not, I don't like it, it's such a cool concept, I like the story, part of the story I experienced, but man, the controls are really not so good. And then I replied to him, I see. What I realized is that he was playing, you can zoom in the game. It's like a top down, but you can zoom in to inspect the world. And he was trying to play the game in the inspect the world mode. And
oh no.
yeah, and it's like, and recently I changed it that it automatically zooms out when you start moving too much, and I didn't have that, so he tried to play the full game like with his hands tied in this strange zoomed in mode that's not meant to fight combats in. And I wrote that to him. He also helped me to figure out a bit. We talked and a bit of the controls that they also needed some polish. And then he was like, he changed his review, and now the review is like, thumbs up, man. The dev talked to me. I was getting something wrong, and we talked, and super cool. I love it. And that's like great interactions. So I'd say if you write a thumb down, maybe check in your review, and maybe the developer replied, and maybe they fixed something, or maybe you also realized maybe you were too harsh, because this thumb down really hurts us, every single one, especially if you're a small dev, because if you only have, like me, like 40, really, if it's not terrible to have 2, but if it becomes like 10 or something, I don't know, then it can really hurt, because then the rating goes down. So I'd really think about if you give it a thumb down, think if you're frustrated with something that was falsely advertised, or if they really like do something, as you said, they patch in something terrible, then you can give it a thumb down and stuff. But don't throw it just because you like, I thought there would be a pink head, and the only head I can see is green, and I hate green, thumb down. That's like, please don't do it. That would be great for everybody if you say, yeah. I said it. I said what I wanted to say. That would be cool if people would do that. Yeah.
I think it would be cool, because it's probably a nicer thing to do, but a lot of people also don't want to spend the time of doing it. And sometimes indie devs just have to live with the odd thumb down. I always say, sure, if you make a good product, normally thumbs downs shouldn't be an issue, and if you don't do dumb decisions.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Now I realized, I was like, okay, if they have 300 on Helldivers, if they have 300 reviews, right? They had 300 and most of them were positive. Nothing they do, you would think, nothing they do can change that, because you would need another 300,000 to buy it, or like 100,000 to buy it and give it a thumb down to get picks. But that's actually not true, because as I just said, you can change the review.
Exactly.
They changed it. Everybody changed it.
Yeah. A lot of people just change it, or new ones that haven't reviewed it so far are coming in now.
And that's good. They make themselves heard, and it's good to tell Sony, please don't do that. That sucks. Don't do that. We bought it. Don't do that shit. It's like,
yeah, they don't. I think, like I said, the issue is more that Sony headquarters doesn't really care. I think the people who are really scrambling right now is Arrowhead, the developer, because they sit there and see all of this goodwill they've built up with all their conscious decisions that they made overruled by their freaking publisher.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them. That really hurts, and that really sucks, man.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe Arrowhead was fully on board with that decision. I don't think they were. I think they said, Sony, don't do this, please, no. This is such a bad idea.
And I think then at some point they said, okay, let's hope it won't be that bad. And now they got like, yeah, let's just see. I'm happy you brought this to my attention. I mean, I didn't check news today, so maybe it would have come to my attention anyway. But I'm glad you pointed me to it. I'll also I will follow it and see what will happen. I hope maybe they just take it back and said, look, yes, it was a terrible idea. We thought at point in time it was good, and Sony is on board with it, that we take it back and it won't be enforced. That would be super cool if they could do that.
Yeah.
Would also be cool from Sony, like make a statement and say, we are a giant company. We have to make money. We have not millions, but we have a ton of employees. We made this decision. We didn't think it would be that a big deal. Now we see it is, and we understand, and we won't enforce it. Like this can be like if like greenwashing, not greenwashing, whitewashing. You know what I mean? Like they could this could be good publicity for them. But sometimes in big companies or in all companies, there's also internal politics, because then somebody would have to say, yes, I made a mistake. And people tend to be very bad at saying, I made a mistake. And so getting these apologies and getting these things to get reverted back, somebody would have to take the blame. And so it can't be like some employee. It has to be like a big decision maker. And most likely won't happen.
Yeah, it remains the AAA space remains a very interesting space indeed. We'll see where it goes. I personally still think we're gonna heading towards I wouldn't say a crash, but definitely, I mean, we are right in it, but I think the video games industry, since like the coof is over now and we're going back to normalcy, they didn't like do the smart decisions that you were doing. They thought these numbers would forever go up. I think we are like in somewhat of a market deflation right now, and we are getting the full force of it, and I think it's also very necessary.
I mean, the big thing that caused it all was like during COVID, all industry or like other industries, they plummeted, right? Like things got really bad, but what did great was games. Games that were like making better sales, and then you could sell to non-gaming related investors the idea that, look, we're making like 40%, we have a growth of like 40%. The gaming industry has like always have like a growth of 7%, but look, now it's 40%, and next year it's going to be 40 again, and it's going to be 40 again. And they were all like, holy smokes, this is the best industry ever. And they poured in their money, hoping to get giant returns. Then COVID ended, and surprise, the gaming industry went back to a normal growth. And they were like, man, but where are my 40%? I have to fire people now and close things. This is like, they were promised big profits, didn't get them, and now they have to, and things like studios and publishers that were working like totally healthy and on growth, they were bought, and now they get closed, even though they were working perfectly fine. It was because of this money that got flooded into the industry, I think.
Yeah, and also because for knobheads like Embracer, that did great decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not get into Embracer. Embracer is another can of worms. It has been an interesting, let's say, 6 to 9 months, even longer.
It's so sorry for all the people that were like laid off. That's been a ton.
On the bright side, from the ashes, new stuff can arise. Yeah. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I would say, I give you the last say, and then we bow out. Just tell the audience anything you want to tell them right now. I give you the microphone, so to say, and then we'll say goodbye.
I know what I want to say. It ties into this because I framed it so negatively with the don't give indie games a thumb down. I would just say it would be super cool if everybody listening checked out the games they played on Steam, and those that they liked, just give them a review. This costs you you can also just write one sentence. It helps out a lot. It's like, I always say wishlisting is important for games that are not out, and reviews are super relevant for games that are out. I also review way too little, but you can do that. It takes you 1 minute. It costs you nothing. Find a game in your Steam library that you, if it's even from an indie publisher or indie developer, even better. Find one that you liked and played over in the last year. Give it a review, and you will help out the developer. That's super cool. That would be super nice.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like a reasonable closing words. And with that, I've been the Orcosaurus with the for the TSI, for the Strategy Informer. And with me has been Alain. Check out Battlejuice Alchemist on Steam. We have a link in the description. Check out the demo. As Alain said, it's quite long. You can play it very, very long. And after that, obviously, if you like to buy the game.
If you like it.
Yeah, if you like it, exactly. And yeah, that's been TSI Talks. Thank you everyone for listening, and bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.